Well, good morning. I'm Brent Adams here with your Rural Strong Morning Ag Report for this Friday, February 9th. Leading off the headlines this morning, a nitrogen plant sale in Weaver, Iowa has sparked some backlash because of consolidation concerns in the fertilizer industry. OCI Global announced a $3.6 billion sale to Koch Ag and Energy Solutions. Josh Linville, Vice President of Fertilizer with StoneX, says there's been a definite pushback against the deal.
There's been a lot of organizations that have stepped up in opposition to the sale. One of the big problems with North America nitrogen is that it is a bit of an oligopoly. Look at it, the three major manufacturers control a very large portion of overall production in the U.S. And the market is trying to push back and say this sale represents the loss of yet another competitor in the space. We are becoming a three-party system, and that's worrisome, right? Because the less competitors you have, the less chance you have that values come under pressure, because if one doesn't do it, the other two probably don't either.
Despite the pushback, Linville expects the sale to be approved.
I'm still in the camp. I think there's a 75% chance it flows through with no problem. The sale is done later on this year. But at least a 25% chance that there may be some people looking at it and say, no, this isn't okay. There is too much consolidation, and we need to stop this. There needs to be healthy competition in space.
Again, that was Josh Linville of StoneX. A special thank you to Susan Littlefield of KRVN and the Rural Radio Network in Surprise, Nebraska for that audio. Well, the February World Agricultural Supply and Demand estimates show the 2023-2024 U.S. corn outlook, calling for lower food, seed, and industrial use and larger ending stocks. Lower usage will lead to a 10 million bushel increase in ending stocks compared to last month's report. The season average corn price received by producers is unchanged at $4.80 a bushel. This month's soybean outlook is for lower exports and higher ending stocks. Soybean exports are forecast at 1.72 billion bushels, down 35 million from last month. With crush unchanged, ending stocks are forecast at 315 million bushels, up 35 million from last month. The season average soybean price is forecast a dime lower at $12.65 per bushel. The wheat outlook is for stable supplies, lower domestic use, unchanged exports, and higher ending stocks. Projected ending stocks are up 10 million bushels to 658 million. The season average farm price forecast is unchanged at $7.20 a bushel. Well, the USDA has just released a new forecast for Brazil's soybean crop and for U.S. soybean prices. Here with the details is USDA Radio's Gary Crawford.
Going into Thursday's round of USDA Ag Supply and Demand forecasts, most of the market focus was on what USDA would say about Brazil's up again, down again soybean crop, a crop that has been hurt by unusually hot weather and erratic rainfall. And indeed, USDA analysts did cut their forecast for Brazilian soybean production by 1 million tons, taking it down to 156 million. That would be down 3.7% from last season, still would be the second biggest Brazilian crop on record. And so U.S. bean exports are still facing major competition from Brazil. USDA lowered its U.S. soybean export forecast by 35 million bushels on Thursday and sliced 10 cents off its season average price forecast for beans, taking it down to $12.65 a bushel, 11% less than last season. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
And USDA Chief Economist Seth Meyer offers his take from the February U.S. meat production and price estimates issued Thursday by the USDA.
On the livestock side, the changes for 2024 aren't significant when it comes to things like production and some notable increases in prices for steers and hogs. Overall production changes for 2024 pretty modest, and part of that modest change, despite what I think was a consequential January cattle report, is a lot of that was about retention and things which will happen beyond 2024. So while I think there were some recent consequential reports for cattle, which says basically we haven't turned that cycle yet, that's beyond what we're currently covering in the WASDE report at this moment.
Well, a newly released USDA report projects lower incomes for all sectors of agriculture in all regions of the country. Here again is Gary Crawford.
It doesn't seem to matter what commodity you're producing or where you're producing it. It's going to be a down year relative to 2023.
USDA's Chief Economist Seth Meyer's comments as he reviewed USDA's first farm income forecast for 2024. It's projecting net cash farm income to come in at $121.7 billion. That would be a 24% drop from this last year. Here's how it shakes out. First,
you have receipts for crops and livestock coming down largely through falling prices, but you have input expenditures continuing to rise.
Production expenses projected to rise slightly, up by 2%.
Yes, it's a small increase, but they're moving in the opposite direction of the output prices, which is really trimming margins for producers and what is giving you that much lower farm income.
Income which could fall below the average of the last 20 years.
And those lower incomes have most farmers preparing ahead for the inevitable low-income year.
As most folks in agriculture know,
producers are used to needing to find ways to smooth income from year to year.
And USDA Chief Economist Seth Meyer says hopefully during the last couple of good income years, producers have done some smoothing, set aside some money to get through what could be a low income year this year. But he says producers will also need to keep close tabs on costs and
refocus on what inputs am I putting on my crop for 450 corn versus 650 corn. And so I think we'll see some producers try to make some adjustments in that way. As we do every time, producers say, what's economically viable for these inputs based upon the output price I might expect.
And of course,
watching your marketing will be another important element this year.
With cash receipts expected to fall this year by about 4%, profits expected to drop by 25%. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
And finally this morning, the Super Bowl is on Sunday and will be watched by approximately 113 million people. Food is a big part of the Super Bowl parties, and Frito-Lay's Super Bowl Snack Index has some interesting food trends. 70% of experienced hosts begin gearing up by planning meals, and 51% start preparations at least a week early. 3 in 5 guests admit the promise of top-notch food is the deciding factor in which Super Bowl party they attend. It's particularly true in 77% of the under 40 crowd. Potlucks prevail as the preferred party format at 67%, highlighting the popularity of collaborative celebrations over the host-provided fare. Salsa at 27%, French onion at 21%, and queso at 20% are the top 3 dips. While salsa steals the spotlight among Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X dippers, baby boomers prefer French onion. 35% of consumers integrate their favorite snacks into their meals. Well, whoever you're rooting for, hope you have a great time on Sunday, and we hope you enjoy those snacks. I'll be reporting from Kansas City on Monday and Tuesdays. I do some board work for the National Association of Farm Broadcasting, and I hope you'll come along with me. In the meantime, if you want to get plugged in with the latest from the world of agriculture, please subscribe to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast from Rural Strong Media. Each week, I bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. The Tractors and Troubadours podcast can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Episode 118 dropped today, and we encourage you to go check it out. We're talking crop protection with the folks from Belsham, and we learn more about the new partnership between John Deere and SpaceX to bring connectivity to John Deere equipment via Starlink satellites. Again, that can be found on episode 118 of the Tractors and Troubadours podcast, available now at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We also invite you to join us daily on Rural Strong Radio, our 24/7 streaming radio station, found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app for your mobile device. Each day, we bring you our award-winning agriculture programming, as well as the best in traditional country music, mixed in with a little bluegrass, western swing, southern rock, and inspirational music. Again, the place to find Rural Strong Radio is ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 streaming radio app. We're portable, so take us with you everywhere you go while you're working on the farm or ranch. Well, I'll be back on Monday from Kansas City with another Rural Strong Morning Ag Report here on Steve Shetler Media. Make it a great weekend, everybody, and enjoy that big